Welcome back to the Automotive Market Minute, in which may or may not take just over a minute. My name is Steven Gergella.
My name is Philip Trebatowski, and we have a special guest for today's Market Minute.
I'm James Sifko, Fountain Forward's automotive economist in residence.
All right, so let's jump right into it and what we have going on from the month of May. First of all, we'll talk about the Fountain Forward cumulative performance from our dealers across the country. And then if the economy's hot, is the consumer not? And what exactly is going on with the consumer? We're going to talk about that and much, much more in this month's Automotive Market Minute. And first of all, a brand new, beautiful slide here by the creative team at Fountain Forward. 75 dealers, 24 states. What happened in the month of May? Well, the month of May was a grind. Traffic up 1.5%, but leads were up 4.5%, appointments up 3.9%. And for the dealers out there that really grinded during the month of May, we saw an increase in new sales. We saw an increase in used sales month over month. And what was interesting is a lot of dealers didn't feel like it was that great. And what we're going to talk about is that really comes down to the compression of grosses. If you ask Phil, myself, and James, it was the fact that, maybe we were flat year over year, but if I was at $4,500 per copy last year and I'm at $3,000 this year, even though the $3,000 would have been great pre-pandemic, I've been feeling these $7,000 grosses for a couple of years now. So, I feel like my hair's on fire. Next one here, Phil, looking at the year over year performance. Okay, so you're looking at a lot more traffic than last year. You're looking at lead volume, pretty much the same. A lot more appointments, a lot more sales from a new standpoint, a lot more used sales. So the market, people are buying cars. There are these recessionary signals that we'll have what we call El Prez here, or Mr. James Sivko talk about. We'll have Phil talk about. But overall, if you look at the buyer, they are buying vehicles. With that said, I'll let the gurus take over. Go ahead, boys.
Okay, right away, we're going to get into U.S. government spending. The U.S. economy has continued to run hot, and this excess demand that we've seen is really creating inflation rather than growth. So why is that? Well, one main driver of that is government spending. In fact, any level of government spending is probably too much. But the reaction to the pandemic that we went through was to jam trillions of excess spending into unproductive stuff into the economy. And this is really how we can have a cautious consumer. And at the same time, we're seeing very impressive jobs and GDP numbers.
Philsky, did you just say that the government was spending money on unnecessary stuff and which was having a negative effect on the consumer? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Look at the scale of this, guys. This is the U.S. economy's 28 point something trillion dollars. And this extra spending blast here has been $3 trillion. So that's why we've seen all of these distortions in the economies. Is just the scale of what Washington is doing, and the U.S. government. I love the title of this thing. Is equivalent to the world's third largest economy.
And it takes a while to drain that excess liquidity out of the system, doesn't it?
Yes. Right now, between COVID and the government spending, we are creating the next 10 years of economic cycles. Just think of it as pulling on just whipping a rope around. We're going to have real cycles over the next decade.
And so the economy is hot, but the consumer is not. So here's a consumer confidence chart dating all the way back to 2007. And an important note here, consumer confidence is based on forward-looking survey data. And one of those data points in there is car buying intentions. Now, as you can see right here, there's been a recent drop, and now this is now moving into a multi-year rollover in confidence. And it looks as if that's pointing towards a slow summer as inflation continues to eat away at monthly household finances. And what might that mean for sales volume? Well, this is new car sales only, and it's gathered from manufacturer data and imports. And you can see it's been pretty consistent here, but we wanted to lay these graphs over. James, anything you want to add here?
Well, the charts really rhyme, and over the coming months here on the market minute, we are going to be going deep on leading consumer indicators, be they car buying intentions. A great survey, they ask you yes, no, uncertain, new, or used. Too bad that's confidential data there, and those are anonymous responses. And we're also going to layer in University of Michigan consumer car buying conditions. Is it a good time to buy a car? Is it a bad time to buy a car, or is it uncertain?
And so what we're trying to do here to the dealers out there and other people that are watching this just comes down to, if Fountain Ford has this information around the traffic, the money that's being spent, the lead volume, the lead mix, salespeople's performance, setting appointments, shows sold, etc., getting down to average price per retail unit, the amount of vehicles that are in the market, and then looking at these macroeconomic conditions. Our objective here is to create a vision for you, create some stability as to what is coming in the next couple of months. Over time, having the brain power of Phil, James, myself, putting that all together to help you make better decisions going forward. And as much as, when you think about marketing and advertising, as much as you think of it as just the acquisition of the customer, what's important is we want to look at, yes, the acquisition of the customer, but why are we getting the customer, and what do we think the customer is going to do next? That's really what the objective of the Market Minute is. And so we've had some fantastic feedback from you. And so just keep in mind that this is really something to help you looking forward, no pun intended, unless you like a good pun. And then we can get a little punny up in here, but that's totally up to you. Carry on, Phil.
And with just last thing before we move on is, as consumer confidence has started to roll over, we are starting to see some recessionary signals throughout the economy. Here you can see job openings and them rapidly declining. This graph dates back to 2000, and look what happens every time that job openings start to decline. Recession in 2008, small recession in 2019, 2020 at the start of the pandemic, and look at what's currently going on. Now, no recession has been declared, but this is one recessionary signal that we are seeing.
Yes, and this is another example of this is the reason why we want to see dealerships high and tight. Okay, now's the time to get high and tight, because that means that those that are not, that's going to be opportunities for acquisitions and such. But if your store is high and tight, getting down to your metrics, getting really good with your turn rate, making sure that your price per unit is at a level in which is focused on the type of people in your market that can afford your vehicle, keeping your ear to the ground. If you do that, that means that when a recession does hit, you have excess opportunity in the marketplace because of your preparation, and you will accelerate out of it, whereas other people will get beat up and may not even make it through.
This is another recessionary signal that we had seen. This is just based on consumer loans. And again, as you can see, as the delinquency rates on these consumer loans has started to creep higher, also, what typically follows that? A recession. You can see a recession here, 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 and currently these are on the incline. But we have another graph here specifically focused on auto loan delinquencies. So, James, would you like to say anything here?
Yeah, it seems like, so these are loans that end up inside asset-backed securities. So whether it's Toyota USA or GMAC, these are typically manufacturer loans. And you can see that over the years, over the decades really, the subprime business has evolved to the point where delinquent deals and defaults are just part of the business. And it's just getting baked into the interest rate now. Your prime borrower is still your prime borrower, and they've been performing just fine all year. All of this activity is driven, as it usually is, by your marginal credit risk.
Fantastic.
Another one, existing home sales. This is just a simple 24-month moving average. You can see here, currently, it's a bit hard to see here, but this is where this moving average currently is. Look at also dating all the way back to 1970. What happens when existing home sales fall like this? Fall into a recession, falling into a recession, falling into a recession. Why should this time be any different?
Yeah, what's interesting about this housing situation is the simple the simple comments that come back from people. Well, my house is currently at 3.25%. Why would I want to jump up and have a 6.75, 7.5% note? So I'm just going to sit on this. Well, eventually, if we know for certain, and James had mentioned this to me, I believe, a week or two ago, talking about new homes that are coming on the market. Well, so we see that new homes tend to be slowing a little bit because those are very expensive. They don't want it to be overexposed going into what could be a recession. So doesn't that sound like a bit? And James, I don't know if you have any off the cuff response to this, but it seems like that could come down to a little bit of a gridlock, because if I'm not going to sell my home and I'm big builder, I'm DR Horton, I'm not going to build new homes. Eventually we hit a gridlock, right?
I think we owe everybody a graph. We'll make a graph of new homes stacked on top of existing homes, and you're going to see that the combination of both of those has fallen down to the absolute bottom of '08 levels. So the realtors are not busy.
Yeah, fair enough. Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, getting into a bit of a kind of a rapid fire round. Looking at inventory returning, new inventory up 51% year over year. It is still down by about 22% compared to 2019, but new days supply came in at 76 days, 44% higher than the same time last year. Used inventory is up 5% year over year, essentially flat against pre-pandemic levels. Used day supply currently coming in right around 45 days. Getting into new vehicle sales. You can see here very, very close reflection to the overall Fountain Ford dealership performance here. 2024 hovering well above 2023 last year's levels, as well as 2022. And then here you can see used retail sales also up year over year.
Well, and going into the next one here, Phil. No, yep. No, there we go. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. If I'm the factory, okay, I'm up here in my C-suite, okay, I don't give a shit about all these vehicles that are on the dealer's lot. There's still, of course, the Fords, the Toyotas, the Chevys that don't have a whole ton of inventory on the lot. Of course, there's the Stellantis with a market day supply of 3,525 days. But what matters here is if I'm sitting in the C-suite, why the hell would I go and buy rates down? Why would I go like Ford a few months back? I talked about spending $100 million just to buy the rates down to 0%. Why the hell would I do anything right now? The consumer is buying more vehicles year over year from a new standpoint, okay? My dealers have their grosses drastically compressed. What do I care? Should they care about the dealer? Yes, but more and more as I get into this business, I realize that my sensitive caring side does not align real well with big factories and publicly traded companies. Who would have thought? But the point is I just don't think they care. I know that for sure they have dealerships in which are playing the dive to the bottom now. Okay, just dropping prices. I talked to a dealer last week that had new vehicles front and back gross going out at $1,000 trying to take market share. And so at what point, the question is, at what point do they have to get aggressive again like they did in Q1 of 2024? At what point do they have to get aggressive to try to help the dealers out? And I think they're just going to hang them out to dry for the summer. I genuinely think that. I think that they're just going to go, well, you are selling more units. We're giving you some back-end money. I know Volkswagen, I think it was, I talked this last week, his average front and back gross was $500, but he was getting like $3,000 back from the factory. So I realize it depends by brand. But, as my rant completes here, I just sit here and I go, why would they do anything different? Do you guys have any comments on that?
Well, the main thing that I wanted to add here is less than 3%, any offer that's less than 3%, you can see that's been steadily declining throughout this year. Actually, if we look at 0% offers, OEMs are not offering many low-rate loans, but some lucky consumers can find some to actually make it worth buying ahead of expected rate cuts coming later this year. Expected. Now, the thing that I wanted to focus on here is a 0% offer. It's at 3.1% in May. It was actually at 2.9% in April. So are we starting to see that slightly start to trend higher? Again, not much of a change, but it was a small uptick in terms of 0% offers. That's the main comment here.
Yep. Hey, Siv, you obviously, as an expert in the field, you know a lot about these big companies and how they react and what they like to do. Does that if they're selling vehicles and it's more year over year and they're producing more, and they get to sell at retail and the dealer gets to sell at wholesale, do you disagree with what I'm saying that the factories are probably going to do for at least the next quarter?
Yeah, they have. They have an obligation to keep the tools moving around the factory floor, and once you get that thing started, shutting it down or slowing it down in an unplanned manner is a real pain. So once you get the flywheel going, you gotta keep the motor going, and they got to keep the factories running. They'll push inventory if they have to.
Yep. Go ahead, Filcy.
Get it in. Last slide here, looking at average auto loan rates. They have moved higher throughout 2024, but there is a possibility that we may have seen rates peak. The average used loan, that's declined by 15 basis points in May to 13.96%. That is up 43 basis points or bips year over year. It peaked in February 24. The average new loan, that did increase by 1 basis point up to 9.71% in May. This is up 79 basis points year over year. However, new rates do look like they have peaked in October 2023 and have moved down slightly since then. Gentlemen,
you called those what again? You said basis points were called what?
bips.
Oh, yes, bips for all those out there. All right, so I'm looking forward to some fantastic feedback from all of you that are watching this video. As I mentioned, we will continue to be aggressively advancing the automotive market minute as we go into July, reporting on June. So we're very much excited about that. But let me tell you, God knocked on our door, and showing up on our doorstep was James Sivko, and this guy has some plans for the automotive market minute. He says CNBC is in the future. I don't see why I'm not getting a phone call from Rick Santelli eventually. My name is Steven Gergella.
My name is Phil Tribatowski.
And I'm James Sivko.
We will see you next month on the Automotive Market Minute. See ya.
Thanks for watching.